This is Mrs. Zappia with the answer key for the practice test for Grade 7, Module 3, Lessons 12 through 15, Inequalities. On the first problem, it says to subtract 12 from P. We do the opposite, which is to add 12. Remember to do the same thing with the same number on both sides of the inequality. This is equal to a zero pair, leaving you with P plus 0, which is P. Bring down your inequality symbol. 14 plus 12 is 26. Next, on this problem, you're going to distribute the 3 to both the first and the second term. So we've got 3 times the first term, x, minus 3 times the second term, 5. Bring down the inequality symbol. So here, simplifying, we have 3x minus 15 is less than negative 36. The opposite of subtracting 15 is to add 15. So we'll add 15 to both sides of the inequality. Simplify, bring down the 3x. Bring down the inequality symbol. And negative 36 plus 15 is negative 21. 3x means to multiply by 3. The opposite of multiplying by 3 is to divide by 3. Simplifying, we have x is less than negative 7. Remember, at this point, where we had 3x is equal to negative 21, you have two choices. You could divide by 3, or you could multiply by the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3. That will work as well. 1/3 of 3 is 1. 1/3 of negative 21 is negative 7. So again, remember, if you could either divide by the whole number, or you could multiply by the reciprocal. For number 12, this means to multiply, so we're going to divide. You do the opposite. Divide by the coefficient 1.38. Bring down the variable, the inequality symbol, and the answer is 6. X is greater than 6. All numbers greater than 6 are the solution. Next, this says to divide by 7, so we multiply by 7. Show multiplication with parentheses. Instead of dividing by 7, we multiply by 7. On the right, I write it as a whole number because I'm multiplying it by a whole number. On the left, I write it as a fraction because I'm multiplying it by a fraction. The fraction for 7 is 7 over 1. The 7's cancel each other out because a number divided by itself is 1. That leaves you with x over 1, which is x. Bring down your inequality symbol, and then 5 times 7 is 35. Next, this is 2/7 times x. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. When you divide by a fraction, remember that that means to multiply by the reciprocal. So we're going to show multiplication with parentheses. The reciprocal of 2 over 7 is 7 over 2. On the left, these cancel each other out because a number divided by itself is 1. That leaves us with the variable x. Bring down your inequality symbol. And 7 times 7 halves. That's 7 over 1 times 7 over 2. Nothing to simplify. Just multiply your numerators. This gives us 49 over 2. In simplest form, 2 goes into 49 24 times with 1 left over. So 24.5 or 24.5. Here, we are going to multiply by the reciprocal as well. The reciprocal of negative 2/5 is negative 5 halves. And negative 5 halves. I'm going to put a 1 under the 14 so that I'm multiplying a fraction times a fraction. Now, when you multiply by a negative number, recall that you need to reverse the inequality symbol. So this is going to become a greater than symbol. These cancel each other out, leaving you with your variable x, because 1 times x is x. And over here, I'm just going to write this neater so I can avoid any mistakes. And the 5 is negative, so I know that a negative times a positive is a negative. And I can cancel here by dividing by the greatest common factor of 2. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 14 7 times. In my numerator, I have negative 35. In my denominator, I have 1. And so the answer is negative 35. X is all numbers greater than negative 35. Number 14. The opposite of subtracting 13, is to add 13. So I'm going to add 13 to both sides of the inequality. This is a zero pair, leaving me with P. And 14 plus 13 is 27. The solution is all numbers greater than 27. We did this problem in class, so we'll continue. Here, I want to take care of the constant negative 4 before taking care of the minus v. So the opposite of minus 4 or subtracting 4 is to add 4. You want to make sure that this does give you a zero pair. Now when you bring this down, make sure you bring the negative sign with it. So we have negative v or minus v. Bring down your inequality and 36. Now this is not solved yet because you need a positive variable. To do this, you can either multiply by negative 1 or divide by negative 1. I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient negative 1. Remember, when you divide by a negative, you need to reverse the symbol. And a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So now I have positive v greater than or equal to. And then my answer is negative 36. All numbers greater or equal to negative 36. In our next question, here we are going to divide by the coefficient 1.38. Remember to do the same thing with the same number on both sides of the inequality. Since this is a positive number, my inequality symbol is preserved. And the answer is x is all numbers greater than 9. Next, it says to divide by 7, so I'm going to multiply by 7. On the right, I'm going to write 7 as a whole number because I'm multiplying it by a whole number. On the right side, I'm going to write 7 as a fraction because I'm multiplying it by a fraction. 7 divided by 7 is 1. X divided by 1 is x. The symbol is preserved because I am multiplying with a positive number. The solution is all numbers greater than or equal to 28. For number 16, it says to multiply by 3/7. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. How do you divide with fractions? You multiply by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of 3 over 7 is 7 over 3. And I'm going to put a 1 under the 12 to write 12 as a fraction. A reciprocal times itself is 1. And 1 times x is x. The inequality symbol is preserved because I'm multiplying with a positive number. I can simplify the 3 and the 12 ahead of time. The common factor is 3. 3 goes into 3 once, and 3 goes into 12 4 times. Multiplying my numerators, I get 28. Multiplying my denominators, I get 1. And so the answer is x is greater than or equal to 28. The next problem is similar. The difference is we have a negative coefficient. So we have negative 2/5 times x. The opposite of multiplying is dividing. So we're going to divide. When you divide by fractions, you solve that by multiplying by the reciprocal. The reciprocal of negative 2/5 is negative 5/2. A number times its reciprocal is 1. 1 times x is x. Since I'm multiplying by a negative number, I need to reverse the symbol to keep it a true statement. Then, on the right side, I have negative 8, which is negative 8 over 1, times negative 5 over 2. A negative times a negative is a positive, so my answer is going to be positive. I can simplify ahead of time with the 2 and the 8 by dividing by 2. 2 goes into 2 once, and 2 goes into 8 4 times. So 4 times 5 is 20. So I have 20 over 1 times 1. And the answer is 20. all numbers greater than 20 are the solution to that inequality. Next, Fred earned $30 in tips and $2.50 per hour at his job last night. What is the least amount of hours he worked to earn at least $40.50? Okay, $30 in tips is a constant. It's just $30. And $2.50 per hour at his job. So we write $2.50 per hour. When we don't know how many hours it is, we write $2.50 times the variable. So we have 2.50 times the variable, and that's how much he is going to earn each hour he works. Plus, he got $30 in tips. And to work, or to earn at least $40.50 means he could have earned that much or more. So our answer will be greater than or equal to $40.50. Again, this is how much he's earning, and he wants to earn at least $40.50. So it could be equal to $40.50, or it could be greater than $40.50. So now we want to solve for our inequality. Subtract 30 from each side, and this is going to take the money from the tips away, leaving you with his hourly pay. And that gives us 2.5h, or 2.50h, greater than or equal to $10.50. Then, to find out how many hours it is, we divide by the coefficient 2.5, or 2.50. A number divided by itself equals 1, and h is greater than or equal to. And this answer is either 4.2 or 4 1/5. So what is the least amount of hours he worked? It has to be at least 4.2 hours. Now generally, you would work the whole hour. So depending on how you wanted to answer this question, if a rational number is acceptable, then you would say 4.2 hours. Sometimes you would need to round up to the next whole number, and in that case you would say the hours is greater than or equal to 5 hours. So depending on how you wanted to interpret the answer, if you wanted to know if you wanted to work the whole hour or not. Next, admission for the basketball game is $6. Snacks are 75 cents each. What is the greatest number of snacks you can buy if you want to spend no more than $12? Write and solve the inequality. You're going to have to pay for two things, snacks and admission. The snacks are 75 cents each. And if you don't know how many of them you're getting, you can just use S for the number of snacks. And they would be 75 cents each. So you would multiply that to find their total cost. So we're going to let S equal the number of snacks. And then the 75 is how much they cost per snack. Additionally, you have to pay $6 of admission. To spend no more than $12 means that you could spend $12 or you could spend less than $12. So less than or equal to 12. Now we'll solve our inequality. We take away the cost of admission, and that's going to leave us how much money is left for snacks. This is a zero pair, leaving us with 0.75s less than or equal to 6. So we have $6 left to spend on snacks. 75 cents each. We'll divide by the coefficient 75. A number divided by itself is equal to 1. The snacks are less than or equal to 8. So you can have 8 or fewer snacks. In the graphing section, greater than or equal to, so that one's going to be a closed circle, and then it's going to point the same way the inequality points. Put the number on your graph, and then also an additional number on each side. Less than -7, So this is all numbers less than -7, but not including -7. And then when you work with negatives, be careful to number your number line correctly. There we go. All right, greater than 2, so it's open and pointing to all of the numbers that are greater than 2, but it's not filled in because it doesn't include 2. Less than or equal to -7. Here's -7. And we want all of the numbers less than -7, including -7, so we fill it in. And the last section, writing the inequality. So we've got a variable and 9, and it's pointing to the larger numbers. And we leave it open because it does not include 9. Okay, the next one would be x is greater than or equal to 3. X is less than -5, and it's open because -5 is not part of the solution, but all of the numbers less than 5 are. And the last one will be x is less than or equal to 0. It's pointing in the same direction as the inequality, and it is filled in, so that means that 0 is part of the solution, so it could be equal to 0 as well. Review videos 12 through 15 to be prepared for this summative.